Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to break down one of the most fundamental topics for your 10th class exams, life processes. My goal here is to make this super clear so you can walk into that test feeling totally confident.
So, let's dive right in with a really big question. How do we actually tell the difference between what's alive and what's not? I mean, seeing a dog run or someone shout, that seems obvious, right? But what if they're asleep? Well, you'd probably say, they're still breathing, and you'd be right. But even that isn't the whole story.
Turns out, relying on those obvious visible movements just doesn't cut it. The real secret to life, the fundamental characteristic, is actually something we can't see at all. It's the constant invisible movement of molecules. You see, our bodies are these incredibly well-organized structures, and all that molecular movement is absolutely essential for repairing and maintaining everything, fighting off that constant threat of breakdown.
And all those essential, non-stop maintenance jobs, repairing cells, fighting off decay, that's what we call life processes. These are the functions that have to keep going 24/7, even when we're totally knocked out of sleep. And when you put them all together, they are the very definition of being alive.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with what makes something alive, then we'll dive into the 4 big processes you need to know: nutrition, or fueling life; respiration, which is all about energy; transportation, the body's delivery system; and finally, excretion, or cleaning house. And don't worry, we'll wrap it all up with a super quick exam review. Okay, let's jump into our first process, nutrition. Seriously, think about it for a second. How does any living thing get the raw materials it needs just to keep going? It's kind of like a city needing constant shipments of food and supplies. Every single organism needs some kind of external source of energy and materials to grow, to repair, to just live. So when it comes to getting this fuel, there are basically 2 main strategies. On one side, you've got the autotrophs. Think of green plants. They're the ultimate DIYers. They make their own food from really simple stuff like carbon dioxide and water. Then on the other side, you've got heterotrophs. That's us. We can't make our own food, so we have to take in complex substances made by other organisms. Now, being a heterotroph comes with a challenge. You eat a piece of bread, right? But your cells can't use that piece of bread directly. So how do we break it down into something useful? That's where enzymes come in. These are fantastic. Think of them as tiny biological scissors. They're catalysts that do all the heavy lifting, snipping those big, complex food molecules into small, simple ones our bodies can actually absorb and use.
And here's a perfect look at our own digestive factory, the alimentary canal. This thing isn't just a big storage bag. Nope. It's a long, highly specialized tube where each section has a very specific job. From the second food enters your mouth, this whole system is designed to crush it, wet it, and chemically dismantle it for maximum absorption.
All right, that brings us to our second major process, respiration. So we've got the fuel from nutrition, but how does the body actually turn that fuel into usable power? That is the job of respiration. And this is a huge point for your exam. This is not just breathing. Respiration is the chemical process that releases energy inside every single one of your cells.
Now, this diagram is super important, so let's follow the journey of glucose, our main fuel source. Look, no matter what happens later, step 1 is always the same. A single 6-carbon glucose molecule gets split into 2 smaller 3-carbon molecules called pyruvate. This all happens in the cytoplasm, that jelly-like stuff inside the cell. But from there, the path it takes depends entirely on one big question. Is there any oxygen around?
And this right here is a classic exam question. You've got 2 paths. The first is aerobic respiration. Aero, think air or oxygen. When oxygen is available, like in our cells, that pyruvate gets broken down completely, releasing a ton of energy. The other path? Anaerobic respiration. When there's no oxygen, organisms like yeast use this pathway. It releases way less energy and creates byproducts like ethanol. That's actually the process of fermentation. And all of this leads us to the absolute star of the show, ATP. All that energy we just talked about, released during respiration, it gets immediately captured and stored in this one molecule. You should 100% think of ATP as the universal, rechargeable battery for your cells. It's the energy currency that powers literally everything, from your muscles contracting to your cells building new proteins. Okay, get ready for a pretty mind-blowing fact. If you could take all the tiny little air sacs in your lungs, they're called alveoli, and spread them out completely flat, they would cover an area of about 80 square meters. That's roughly the size of a tennis court, inside your chest. So, why on earth would we need a tennis court's worth of surface area in our lungs?
Well, it's all about one word: efficiency. This massive area creates a huge surface for gas exchange, making sure oxygen can flood into your blood and carbon dioxide can get out as quickly and effectively as humanly possible. It's just a brilliant piece of biological engineering.
Okay, so we've got our fuel from nutrition, and we've got our oxygen for respiration. Great. But how do we get those essential materials to every single one of the trillions of cells in our body? Well, that's where our third life process, transportation, comes into play. In a complex organism like a human, you can't just leave this to chance. We have a super sophisticated system. It all starts with the heart, our relentless muscular pump. Then you have the blood, which is the transport liquid carrying everything. That blood flows through a massive network of tubes called blood vessels. And inside that blood, you have the real hero of oxygen delivery, a special protein called hemoglobin that grabs onto oxygen in the lungs and delivers it where it needs to go. Now, plants need a transport system too, but it's a totally different ballgame. They don't move around, and their energy needs are a lot lower, so their system is way slower. They basically have two main pipelines: the xylem, which acts like a set of straws, pulling water and minerals up from the roots, and the phloem, which is responsible for distributing the food made in the leaves to all the other parts of the plant. All right, we're on to our final life process. Think about it. Any busy city produces garbage, right? Well, every living organism produces waste from all its chemical activities. Getting rid of this potentially toxic waste is the vital job of our fourth and final process, excretion. And it is so important for your exam that you get this definition right. Excretion is not just getting rid of undigested food. No, it is specifically the process of removing the harmful byproducts from the chemical reactions happening inside our cells. Things like nitrogenous wastes, which can become super toxic if they're allowed to build up. So for a big, multicellular organism like us, just letting that waste diffuse out of our skin would be way too slow and ineffective. We need specialized organs to do the job. And for humans, the main organs of excretion are our kidneys. They are packed with millions of tiny, microscopic filtering units called nephrons, which work around the clock to clean our blood. Okay, to pull this all together and give you a fantastic tool for your revision, let's put all four of these essential life processes together on one slide. This is perfect for that last-minute review right before your exam. And here it is. This is the whole story in one glance. You can clearly see each process, its main function, and the key parts involved. Nutrition gets the fuel. Respiration unlocks the energy. Transportation delivers everything. And excretion cleans up the mess. See how they all have to work together to maintain life? And to leave you with one final thought, to really lock in your understanding. Think about just how interconnected these systems truly are. What would happen if just one system failed? Let's say the transport system. It wouldn't just be an isolated problem, would it? It would set off a catastrophic chain reaction, causing failures in all the others. And that right there is the beautiful, complex, and fragile nature of life.